Second, Amar. All right, my friends, welcome aboard. We got a live stream, Wednesday live stream with Amar here, and we got a good one today. 5 strategies for charitable giving. And before you sit there and say, I don't want to give money away, listen to the strategies. You might find value out of this for sure, because there's a lot of things going on that I think a lot of people forgot about when it comes to estate planning, ways to reduce your estates, ways to Amar, I just talked to a guy today, a client. This guy freaking crushes. So he's not necessarily charitably inclined in terms of his money, but he does a lot of wonderful volunteer work with the jail system in a very urban area and helping out young kids. And one of his young kids is now going to law school at Georgetown University. You know what I'm saying? And his brother, it's just, some kid that was down on his luck. He was in the trouble with the law in some urban area in the South. And this guy was able to get him on the right path. So even though he's not charitably inclined necessarily with his money, he's certainly charitably inclined with his time. It's a wonderful thing. So welcome back, Amar. What's going on in San Diego? You guys finally getting some sunshine once in a while?
Yeah, we got some blue skies, a little bit of clouds. We had a little bit of rain the other day, but not to say that San Diegans overreact or when there's rain. We just don't know how to drive.
And as that's nothing got flooded. I mean, no big major damage or anything this last time around, right? Everything is, everybody survived to tell the story, I assume.
Yeah, everybody survived. Mission Bay, because we also have king tides right now. So just imagine the tide coming from the ocean coming more inland than it normally would. And so Mission Bay had some ocean waves going to the boardwalk and stuff like that, but nothing like the last rainstorm where people were flooded and getting their cars stuck and stuff like that.
Yeah, man, that's I tell you what, that's scary stuff, man. Especially getting stuck in a rainstorm when you're in your car. You're like, that's you've seen some of the videos, man. People just stuck. You're like, you can't just get out and walk away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, like some of them is like, I'll have to send you some, but there's some in downtown San Diego where people are in their trucks, they're driving, and then all of a sudden they can't go anymore. And then they have to get out of their car through their window, top of their hood to get saved, putting other people in jeopardy there a little bit.
And we are on your YouTube channel right now. So why don't you give everybody a heads up to your YouTube channel as I see. Yeah, right on.
Absolutely. So my name is Amar Shah. I'm a financial advisor here in San Diego. We have a YouTube learning channel. It's called Client First Capital Learning. You can watch there as well. We're streaming it in both places. I also have a newsletter, which goes out once a month. It's actually only 11 newsletters that go out. And they contain 3 financial planning stories or articles that relate to taxes, investments, charitable giving, and estate planning. So those are the themes of the newsletter, if you will. And then
I think we lost you for a second there, Mar. So how do you access the newsletter?
You can go to clientfirstcap.com and you can go under articles and insights, and there's a little subscribe here button on the right, which you can easily go there to subscribe.
Yeah, no, man. Well, let's we want to keep these guys about 30 minutes or so. So we're going to dive right into this because pulverizer. We were just talking about you off screen, matter of fact, pulverizer. That was kind of funny. Amar said, "What about pulverizer?" I said, "No one cares about pulverizer, Amar." So we're going to bring up this slide deck that Amar put together because we want to keep these, bite size, lunch and learns. That's what we want to keep these. So let's bring it up, Amar. So
yeah,
just take it away, man. This is a good slide deck, and this is going to be fun to talk about.
So no slide deck or presentation would be complete if you didn't have some disclosures, and so we'll leave these on here for a little bit. But this is basically, we're not taking your situation into account. This is just general educational purposes only. So that's that. And I'm assuming, Josh, you don't have any disclosures to give.
I just disclosed that Paul Brod's now shaking his fist at Scanlon because my disclosures, Amar, is I'm going to start banning everybody. All right, that's my disclosure. So you say anything I don't like, I'm banning everybody. Just FYI. So go ahead.
All right, so it's 5 strategies for smarter giving. So, I think the number one thing to take away from this presentation is making sure that you identify the right assets to give. I think that's the number one thing that we're going to be focusing on here. The rest of these B, C, D, and E are situations where finding the right asset and pairing it with something that you're already doing can make a win-win for your financial situation. So the first thing here is figuring out what is the right asset to give. So when you're looking at assets to give to charity, they typically come in 3 buckets. Either you're giving cash, or meaning you're writing a check to a charity, or you may be giving cash and getting a receipt, and then you're totaling that up at the end of the year. Another way to give is to give appreciated securities. So if you have some stocks and let's say you have Apple stock or something, you can give a couple shares to a charity. That's another way to give. But the third way to give assets is really, I would say, like the efficient frontier of giving in terms of complex assets that are considered non-publicly traded assets. A lot of times people have not looked at those as opportunities to give, and so we'll spend some time there as well. So here's the first example that I want to kind of go over. When you give cash assets, so let's say you have a stock that the current value is $50,000 and you purchased it for $20,000. So you have a $30,000 gain in that stock. If you were to sell that stock, you would pay about $7,000 in taxes because you're at the highest. This is assuming you're at the highest tax rate, and you have the net investment interest tax for healthcare there as well. And so $7,000 goes away in taxes, leaving you with about $42,800. You give that to charity, and then you get a deduction of $15,858. So the net, if you offset the capital gains with the savings on your tax, you're about $8,000 benefit there to you if you're giving through cash. If you gave the same charity appreciated the securities directly, so this is taking that $50,000 worth of stock, gifting the shares directly to the charity. You don't pay capital gains tax on that. The charity gets all $50,000 because they don't pay taxes when they sell, and you get the full charitable contribution deduction, which is greater because it is $18,500, right? So roughly a $3,000 plus savings over giving cash proceeds, but even more so if you include the capital gain, right? So important to remember that piece. Yep. Not all gifts are created equal, right? And what we're trying to do here is with the gift that you're giving, get the most amount of leverage in terms of effective cost of your donation. Remember, there are limits, with your AGI, right? So if you're giving a cash donation, you can deduct up to 60%. Anything that has appreciation is capped at 30%, right? So barring those limits, let's say you had a $10,000 gift. If you give cash, that gift, if you include the deduction on your taxes, is actually costing you $6,300. And if you look at the far right here, if you have something that has a very low cost basis, that benefit is a lot higher, right? So you're getting almost 2 times the benefit gifting the same amount of dollars to the charity. So let's look at some real life examples of how gifting and financial planning can go hand in hand. So when we're rebalancing, typically we're selling something that has a capital gain, and then you're purchasing something that's like low, that has some losses, that you're trying to bring up so that everything equals out in your diversified portfolio. But let's say you own a stock that you really like and you want, or an investment that you really like let's just say S&P 500, and you want to continue to own S&P 500, but you want to reduce the tax liability for future years. So one of the things that you can do is take that very low cost basis in the S&P 500. Let's say you bought it in like 2008, 2009, and you can donate several of those shares to the donor advised fund. At the same time, you can buy S&P 500 in your taxable account at the fair market value. So you still own the S&P 500, but you've increased the cost basis from like very low to what today's fair market value. Does that make sense, Josh? Did I explain that?
I think you haven't even talked about donor advised funds, so I'd suggest you explain what DAF is first, so people can understand. If that's
okay. Yeah. So a donor advised fund essentially is a public 501c charity that is managed through Fidelity, Schwab, communities, etc. So essentially, you can put money into a donor advised fund. The funds sit in a separate account for you. It's invested, it stays there, and then you can make gifts to other charities through that fund, right? So it's a vehicle used to gift into, to simplify and make your gifts as efficient as possible by putting money into one, getting one tax receipt, and then giving directly from that fund to your charities.
It's a poor man's charitable trust. And so what happens with a donor advised fund, a Dark Horse production, is that you don't have to set up all the rules and regulations with setting up your own family trust or charitable trust. And you can just do a foundation, essentially, poor man charitable foundation. You can do it through a donor advised fund, which is fantastic. It's a wonderful tool for charitable contributions and charitable donations. There is some concern, frankly, about the rules and regulations about donor advised funds because, like always, there's always people who take advantage of that. But it's a poor man's family trust, charitable foundation. It's a wonderful tool if you're charitably inclined. And so anyway, so Amar was saying you donate to your charitable trust, in this case, a donor advised fund, your appreciated stock. And that has a lot of value added there for sure.
Yeah, well, so I think it does two things, right? Number one, it simplifies the tax reporting because you can, let's say you're giving a charity money on a monthly basis. I mean, you're collecting all those receipts so that you can total it up at the end of the year. Here you get just one receipt in the donor advised fund, and then you can make monthly contributions out of that, right? So it simplifies that piece. The other piece that's important to kind of talk about is that you could have your name on the check, you could have your name and address on the check, or you could have nothing on the check, right? Like, so if you want to be totally fly under the radar, nobody knows who you are, this gives you an ability to do that and still get the
absolutely. You can be anonymous, 100%. That's a big deal. Yeah. All right, keep going. Right on. Good stuff.
So rebalancing, again, if you want to rebalance a portfolio and keep your securities that you enjoy, but just increase the cost basis of those securities through and give to charity, there's a way to do that. And the second thing here is complex assets, right? So we're talking about if you own a company, if you own real estate, if you own Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies or of any sort, even if you have restricted stock, right? You can use these to fund donor advised funds, right? And how it works, and I'm going to give you an example here on the next slide, is that let's say you have a business and these numbers are large. I took all these slides or most of these slides from another presentation, but let's just say you're selling a business for $20 million and you want to donate $5 million to charity. Okay, well, if you sell the business and then you donate after the fact, your donation is gonna be reduced because you have to pay capital gains on the sale of your business, right? So that $5 million worth of company stock, is now worth 3.8 million because you had to pay 1.2 million in taxes for that portion. With a donor advised fund, one of the strategies could be is that you could donate to the portion that's going to go to the charity. You could sell part of that business interest to the charitable side. So in this case, we're using Fidelity Charitable. So your charitable fund will own 5% or 25%, whatever percent of the business before the sale of your business. And then all those proceeds go into the donor advised fund, which then can be distributed to your charities at your leisure after. So there, you can scale this up and down, right? So let's just say this was 50,000. Well, you're going to save $12,000 in taxes, right? If you follow this type of an approach.
Yeah.
Another financial planning strategy or time to look at donor advised funds is the year you retire. Okay, the year you retire, you're probably going to have all your unpaid PTO paid out to you. You're going to have high income because usually you retire after you get your bonus or whatnot. Yep. So that's going to be a higher taxable year. So in that year, you can fund a donor advised fund, get a large deduction, and then when your tax bracket goes lower, you can switch to standard deduction for the following years, right? So there are strategies specific to high income years.
Or if you got a big commission, like say a realtor in 2020, you made or 2020, 21, you made tons of commissions or something like that. In the last couple of years, been kind of sparse. There's not much property moving. You're like, man, in those big commission years, you take advantage of your tax deductions. Your low commission years, you don't. You just say, I'm going to take the standard deduction. That's one of the benefits of the donor advised fund. It allows you to kind of piecemeal your charitable contributions for sure. This isn't a strategy video solely on donor advised funds, guys. I don't want to, make that, this basis on that, but just all these strategies are applicable. High income years are the best years to donate. Low income years are the best years to take standard deduction. If that makes sense.
And when you're donating to a donor advised fund, that doesn't mean you're giving it to charities all at once, right? Yeah. You get to choose. So if your goal is to give, in this, example here, they're giving 10,000 every year. You can still give 10,000 every year to charities from the donor advised fund, right? So it's the charities and the giving hasn't changed. It's just how are you deducting it on your taxes is the big piece here. Another one is Roth conversions, right? So when you do a Roth conversion, you could also offset some of that tax burden with the charitable contribution, right? And so there are a couple things that need to happen to make sure, a Roth conversion is ideal for your situation. One, you got to expect higher taxes, got to have a longer time horizon, right? Typically 5 years or more. Sometimes it could be up to 12 years, depending on how risky you are in your investments. And you want to be able to pay the taxes with after-tax dollars, right? And so one of the things that we've helped a client with that came to us is that they strongly feel that tax rates are going up, which in the current environment, we know tax rates are going up, right? Because the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act sunsets in 2 years now. Extremely generous is mid 70s, doing the QCD every year, giving to charities instead of taking his RMD. But he wants to leave a legacy of giving, and he wants to have an ability to set up like an endowment so that money goes to charities after he passes for a period of time. So when he came to us, what he had set up was a revocable living trust, where his trust assets would go into the trust, and then every year a certain portion would go to charities, and his IRA, Roth IRAs were going to kids, right? And at first glance, it would be like, oh, you should change the beneficiaries in your IRA to charities because they don't pay taxes, but that goes all in one lump sum, right? And he did not want that. So the workaround, or what we did from a planning perspective, is that he has 2 children. He believes tax rates are going up, So we encourage doing a Roth conversion. And so the kids are now the beneficiaries of this Roth, right? So we've met the long time horizon. He's already stated that he feels rates are going up, and we're paying taxes with his trust assets, right? So he has other money to pay the taxes. We do the Roth conversions. Then we also are doing donor advised fund contributions with highly appreciated securities, getting the deduction now for tax purposes. But then we have an ability in the donor advised fund to select, 4 or 5 charities and have payments go out to those charities after he passes. So he's funding the donor advised fund as part of his legacy. He's not really contributing to charities through his donor advised funds because he's doing that through the QCD in his IRA, qualified charitable deduction.
Yeah.
So this example, again, dollars are high, but you can scale this down, and you either have a large tax bill and just do the Roth conversion now, or you can have a smaller tax bill and have some go to charities. And if you do this over a period of time, your legacy piece towards charities will be significant, will grow. And so, working from a planning perspective is very important to tie in your tax situation, your family legacy goals, and tie in, the charitable planning piece to make it effective.
If that's an important thing. Some people say, that's absolutely okay. Not, I don't want to give money to charity. I want to volunteer. I don't want to do it. It's absolutely okay to do that, but knowing the strategies that can be used in your own financial planning to reduce taxes and to I don't know, whatever you want to do with your money is important. And these change all. That's the problem with stuff, Amar. It always changes. And some people say, I still remember people telling me not too long ago, I still doing 2,000 a year into my Roth. I was like, why? Well, that's what the max I can do. I was like, no, that's changed a long time ago. It's just crazy. You got to keep up with this stuff, man. And a lot of people don't have time to. They just don't have the time to. That's why, frankly, these YouTube channels and videos are important, and newsletters and things of that nature, because our job is to keep up with this stuff for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you have questions, or if you have concerns, or if you have a specific scenario that you want to kind of go over, just give us a call. We don't mind spending a half an hour or so just figuring out.
Not me. Amar's not saying give us as a me. So Amar's
give me a call. Yeah, right. Specifically.
Right. I don't answer my phone. I think no, I don't answer my phone. So just FYI. All right. So any other strategies on that thing that you want to talk about, Amar? On the
I think that was it. Just from a high level, I think the key is to find the right assets, right? Like, oftentimes, when people start giving, they just write checks to charities, right? And that is the worst asset that you can give to a charity. I mean, for yourself, right? Like from a tax planning perspective, the charity loves money, right? And we can still give the same amount of money to the charity, but we can do it in a tax efficient way. And the best way to do this is through appreciated securities that have a very low cost basis. And oftentimes those securities are business interests, real estate, crypto, or anything like that that's non-publicly traded. That in fact, I had a client that had an office building that they were selling here in San Diego, in over in Little Italy here, and their cost
basis, there. It's nice.
Yeah, their cost basis was $25,000 when they bought this property.
Are you kidding me?
Oh. When the first spouse passed away, the cost basis got bumped up to about $600,000. And when mom was ready to sell the property, didn't want to deal with renters and such like that, and they needed money for long-term care type expenses, we were able to put 10% of the value of the property into a donor advised fund before it sold, so that we could get this large charitable deduction, so that the capital gains on when they sold the property for roughly $2 million, that difference that is a capital gain. And you can help offset some of that with charitable planning.
And along those lines, What's the minimum for a Fidelity donor advised fund? $50,000?
No, you could put a lot less than that. I think they don't have a specific written minimum, but I think the key language in the donor advised fund that people should be aware of, and this is true with Schwab and with Fidelity, is that you need to donate at least $50 every 3 years.
Oh, no, I'm saying what's the minimum to open it? I'm saying
there isn't a minimum.
Oh, so that's what see. This is why I think donor advised funds. I tell you, they're wonderful. Again, called poor man's foundations, because you don't have to put $500,000 in there. You can start with almost anything. You know what I'm saying? And that gives you a little bit more control of when you're going to contribute. If this is something that's important to you, I think donor advised funds are pretty sweet, actually. I'm not sure how long they'll be like that. I always worry about the politics of them, but we shall see. But right now, man, they're secure as can be, and they're wonderful. And you can choose investments in there. You can invest it just like a mutual fund, and the investments can grow. I mean, you're going to have to give some of that money out, obviously, but you don't have to be Warren Buffett to have a donor advised fund. That's a fact. Yeah. You can be Amar. You know what I'm saying? Without you don't have two nickels to rub together and still have
there
a donor.
You go. Right. No, but the donor advised fund is seeing a lot of popularity I would say on both sides of the spectrum, because a lot of people that set up foundations or charitable funds and stuff like that was generation one, and that probably started a business that was successful. Generation 2 or 3 may not be as charitably inclined, right? And so there are certain IRS rules and regulations that you have to meet if you're opening a foundation, that if you don't meet them, you're going to get in trouble with the IRS. And so a lot of these foundations have converted to donor advised funds just because of the simplicity side of it and not needing to meet those regulations. So I think it's a good product for a lot of people. We're not recommending a product. This is just educational, but it is something that you should consider if you're charitably inclined.
All right. So Pulverizer said, I just write checks. I'm not sure why he writes. That's not how we pronounce checks here or spell checks in the United States, Pulverizer. He said, I guess I'm hosing myself on the taxes, but am I supposed to let the children starve until I get a tax advantage? No, it doesn't work like that, man. If you're giving highly appreciated assets, for instance, they're going to sell it immediately and use that money to the.
So let's use an example. Let's say you're writing $200 of checks on a monthly basis, and that becomes $2,400 at the end of the year, right? You could put $2,400 worth of securities into a donor advised fund and write checks from there, $200 a month to your charities,
right?
And get the same benefit to the charity. But now you have remove the capital gain, number one, and you have the large deduction in that 1 year, right? If you're itemizing.
But it's not like the charity's going to sit on that cash anyway. I mean, they're going to sell that stock immediately and turn around, deploy that cash. It's not like it sits there forever. Kirk says he gives.
I mean, in the donor advised fund, you can it'd be sold, and then you have like a balance fund, a growth fund, an income fund, principal protection type. You get to choose the investments that are underlining in your donor advised fund.
But I get what he's saying. The convenience of writing checks, 100%. I get that, man. I mean, we sponsor 4 kids through the Christian Foundation for the Children Aging. We've been sponsoring them since Maddie was like diapers, and we just give them checks. We just give them cash. It's just easier. But from a tax perspective, that is all deductible. But from a tax perspective, if I had highly appreciated assets, I should give them stock that are highly appreciated, which I don't, because all my stocks go the exact opposite. So I buy the stock, it goes depreciating. And then we'll close up here with my man Kirk from Portland, Oregon. He gives 10% to God. He tithes. It's not an option. It's a way of life. 100%, man. The tithing, these aren't mutually exclusive, though. We can still have charitable contributions and still respect tithing for sure. So a lot of these things kind of play hand in hand. If you just think about, is there more tax advantage way? I mean, give to Caesar what's Caesar, but God doesn't sit there and say, give to Caesar more than he asked for. And that's the thing with the tax code. Yeah, you're going to pay your taxes come hell or high water, but is there a better way for you to keep your hard-earned assets that you could use to exploit the tax code? Exploit is fine. It's not a negative thing. And that keeps more of your assets that you could use to proclaim the Great Commission, if you will, from a financial perspective, but not mutually exclusive. So just if we have appreciated assets and we still want to tithe, there's ways we can do this if we have appreciated assets, or if we can lump sum our charitable contributions in a year. That just gives you more money to use on behalf of God's kingdom. So I think that's an important thing. It's not, and you don't have to be rich. You don't have to be a rich guy to do this. You just have to be willing to, because you are going to make money. You're going to make a gift. You're leaving money that you could spend to put into other people's pockets. And frankly, I think it's kind of what we're called to do. But obviously, if you have debts, tough to do. You know what I'm saying? It's tough to do, which is why, we really got to look at usury, because usury is really exploiting people's debt scenario, and it's not good. So anyway, all right, that's 30 minutes, guys. Much obliged you guys to be here. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember what we're going to talk about next time, but thanks for being here. I'm going on Locals Live tonight at 8. So if you aren't part of my Locals channel, joshscanlon.locals.com. Sign up if you will. Amar, one more time on your how they can contact you.
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel called Client First Capital Learning. Our website is clientfirstcap.com, and all our contact information is on there. We also have a newsletter there that you can subscribe. It's just an email. That's all it is. It's only 11 issues a year.
So he's not going to bombard you. Let's just put it that way. Like some of these newsletters I get, I was like, I subscribe to this guy. I get like 3 emails a day. I'm like, and then I try to unsubscribe them. Like, I'm still getting the emails. What's that? All right. Got to go. God bless. Thanks, guys. See
Bye.
you. All right.